It is now time to experience the buzz, a podcast that takes an inside look at amazing people doing amazing things. Get ready for some great conversation that will be fascinating, educational, and inspiring. We will also leave room to help small businesses in a big way. Now, here's your host, entrepreneur Steve Buzzard.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Experience the Buzz. I am your host, Steve Buzzard, and we are back. I know we didn't have a show last week, but again, we are running a marathon, not a sprint, and so therefore, here we are. It is episode 89. Ryan Duey of Plunge is going to be with us. That is the cold plunge bath. Here's the best part. They were on Shark Tank. That's great, isn't it? That happened on May 2nd. You know what's even better? They got a deal. So if you're a big Shark Tank fan, you're going to love this episode outside of the fact that you're going to be like, man, I need to get one of these baths for me, either put it outside or inside. So we're going to have more on Ryan Duey in just a second. But right now it's time for What's the Buzz? Now, what's the buzz? Number one, listen, yesterday went to the movies with my beautiful wife, Kristen. What did we see? You know what's coming, right? Yep, Top Gun Maverick. And I am just going to tell you, it felt good. It was emotional for me. I'll tell you why it was emotional. First of all, great movie to come out of the pandemic. I know there's been a few kind of along the way, but this one, I think for everyone kind of really nailed it, right? I think everybody would agree with that. Number two, it had all of the elements of Top Gun that needed to be in the movie. And again, I'm not going to give anything away, but I thought they did a monumental job. And the cheesiness, it's there. It's there. But you know what? I embraced it, and you'll embrace it too. Here's number three. Third of all, is the fact that, I was just like, wait, I'm in a movie theater. I can't believe I'm actually in a movie theater. And that was awesome as well. And then finally, just being with my wife, we actually had a date going to the movies. So again, I had never done more fist pumps within a movie like I had done with Top Gun Maverick. So I'm just giving it a big thumbs up. I'm giving it, well, I kind of gave it an 8 or 9 out of 10, but it's as close to 10 as possible. The other thing is, I don't know about you, but I love previews, and the previews of movies coming out, including one with Brad Pitt, Night Train. I'm down with the Brad Pitt. And then, of course, you have Chris Pratt and Jurassic Park. Anyways, a lot of good feels were going on regarding being able to be at the movies and see the movie that I know everybody loves, Top Gun Maverick. All right, so let's go ahead and get back to our guest and then jump into this program. It is Ryan Duey. I'm so excited to bring you this conversation because we are going to talk about plunging. I don't know if you've ever heard about it. I kind of knew something about it, but we have two guys, Ryan and his partner, Michael, that came up with the cold plunge bath. Now, not only that, they did well, then went on the Shark Tank, then got a deal, and now their business is skyrocketing. So we're going to get the whole conversation. We're going to find out about Ryan. We're going to find out about that Shark Tank experience, and we're going to hear his story. So without further ado, let's get to it. It's time to enjoy this conversation with Ryan Duey of Plunge. Enjoy the conversation. Welcome in, everybody. It is Experience the Buzz. So excited to be with you for another week. We've actually been off for 2 weeks, so we got to get into this amazing conversation that's come your way. It is Ryan Duey, who is the co-founder of Plunge, and it's the cold plunge, and it's featured on Shark Tank. Just happened, believe it or not, early in May. We're going to get into the details, and if you're a fan of the Shark Tank like I am, guess what? They also got a deal. And that's a big deal when you go on the Shark Tank because there's many that walk down that hallway out of there without a deal. But that was not the case for Ryan Duey and his partner, Michael Garrett. Ryan, welcome to the show. It's so good to have you.
Awesome to be here, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. This is so fun. And I told you, I was so pumped for this. And before we got on, I'm a big fan of Shark Tank. So, I'm watching Shark Tank like I usually do. I think it's the 13th season now, and I'm a diehard fan. And so it's great to see businesses come in there because it does represent small business owners. But it's even better when it's from Sacramento. And that was your case. So as soon as they said Sacramento, boom, I was just like all attention. And then you guys, what's that?
Were you watching live?
I was watching live, yes. And so that was the best part of it because it featured, I think it was on May 2nd. And you and Michael, great, showcase of the product and everything. And I want to get into the experience, but I think people want to know, like, what is Plunge? What is the cold plunge? This is good stuff.
Yeah, so we build and manufacture and ship cold plunges, ice baths for your house. It's basically a all-in-one, on-demand cold water system that has self-cleaning filtration. You can pick your temperature. It's in a pretty sleek tub. So it's not that chest freezer style that's kind of hidden in the garage, but it can be, it's a showpiece, and it's for people that want to build a cold water practice. And we just build tubs, ship them all over the world.
Yeah, and this is nothing new. I mean, you maybe talk a little bit about the history of this, because obviously there's going to be people that are going to be listening and seeing this going, oh, okay, this is brand new to me, but this has been around for a while.
So, I mean, the practice of getting into cold water goes back, since, before, early history. Yes. Obviously, Nordic regions have always been utilizing it. It's just, I think we took... it'd been gaining popularity, especially from Wim Hof. Wim Hof's a big pioneer in the space. Wim Hof breath work. Wim's this very charismatic individual that was the first to kind of show the benefits of cold water therapy in clinical settings. So that was what, he put that on the horizon back about 6 to 7 years ago, really hit the mainstream. And so it'd been gaining some popularity in the most recent history, but there really wasn't any units that you could do and at home. You'd either have to, seasonally hit your local lakes, rivers, buy a custom $50,000 cold plunge built-in type system, or there were a couple other products on the market that were, in that $10,000 to $15,000 range. So there really wasn't much out there to make this more accessible to consistently get into cold water.
Let's talk about our connection. So we have never met. Obviously, I saw you on Shark Tank, and right away I thought of my good friend Juan Beck, because Juan had purchased one of your cold plunge baths, and he had it, and he was featuring on social media, and he was like all big on it. I'm like, okay, this is a pretty cool deal. And when I saw it right away, I'm like, oh man, I got to get a hold of Juan. And it was great. I said, I'm trying to get Ryan and Michael on the podcast. Got to have them all. Small business owners, got a deal on Shark Tank. Can you help me out? Do you happen to maybe know them or something? He's all, oh yeah, I know them. And then I talked with you before we get on, and you said he goes a lot back further. It's a deep friendship here, and he was really involved even with the business as well.
Yeah, Juan's one of my good friends. Like he's an investor with me with Capital Floats, another local company I have. And he was a part of our journey from the beginning. Like the name that you talked about at the beginning, Plunge, cold plunge. Juan was totally in those conversations, helping us navigate what our domain should be and how to position ourselves when we were first launching the website. Helped us a bit on some website stuff with Shopify. Juan's just been a big, supporter, and he's just been a great person to lean on throughout this whole time. He's just a dear friend.
So here's the big question. You get a deal on Shark Tank. We're going to get into the details like in our second segment of this conversation. But I know always the big question is, what happens at that point once you get that deal? Do things skyrocket? Because within the show, they always show like people that had been on the show and they give an update. And then, of course, all the stories are good coming back. I imagine not all of them are going to be great, but the ones they showcase are definitely good. What was the initial spark after you guys were on the show and got the deal? Yeah,
I mean, so we initially going on the show, we saw an incredible amount of web traffic. That was really fun that night to kind of just watch the active users on the, and there was always that hour, you get the East Coast first. So the East Coast lights up, then you get like the Midwest, and then it comes West. So that initial lot of web traffic, sales were really good that first week. We were on a good trajectory already. Our business has a bit of seasonality to it. Mm-hmm. We're hitting into warmer months. The rest of the country's starting to warm up. So we'd already been hitting a pretty good stride. And then, Shark Tank, it's definitely a jolt. Like it was bigger than I anticipated. And that's saying something, because I was hesitant with how big we were going to be, because, our product's really unique to be going on a Shark Tank. Most of the time it's a food product, it's a pot or pan, it's a clothing item. It can be an impulse buy, anywhere from $20 to $100 that people are purchasing an item there. Well, ours is $5,000. So it's not really an impulse buy. Mm-hmm. but we just brought, I think, there was a heavy amount of traffic. Sales increased. I think it brought us more credibility. That's been the biggest thing, is you get this as seen on Shark Tank now. So a lot of our like digital marketing in place now gets to utilize some of that content and some of that collateral. So it's been, it was great. It was larger than I anticipated, to sum it up.
Ryan Duey is our guest. Now, Michael Garrett, who's the co-founder and the guy that Ryan partnered with, he's not with us today. So Ryan is speaking on behalf of the company. I'm just so glad he decided he could join us here on Experience the Buzz. And the beautiful thing, if you didn't realize this already, this is a Sacramento-based company. And that is the coolest thing in the world. And just being on Shark Tank and being able to get that deal. When we talk about the cold plunge, I love the fact that you kind of use this line: want to make plunging as common as coffee. Well done.
It's a true line. I mean, to do it every single morning, it gives you a jolt that is coffee cannot compare to it.
Yeah.
And we're very adamant on that saying and really believe in that.
Yeah, and talk about that, because I think people now want to know, okay, what are the benefits? There's so many benefits. Inflammation, I know, is the big one. We obviously see athletes always getting iced up and going into cold baths, but this is something you're trying to bring to the everyday person like myself.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, the benefits, it's wide ranging, and it really depends on the person and what they're getting into it for. I mean, but what you're going to get for every single person is, I use the term nervous system regulation. It's basically our response to stress. So you get in there, the whole point of it sucks. You never want to do it. That doesn't really change. But you get in there, you lose your breath, you get an adrenaline dump into the body, and you learn how to breathe through that. What that means is you learn how to handle stressful situations better. That actually is a system and a process in our body. We would sometimes admire how some people handle stress. It's because it's an internal process. It's how we breathe. It's how it's how we regulate our internal body. So plunging's, to me, a jungle gym for your nervous system. That's like the top one that's there. Mood elevation, it's huge. I mean, New York Times recently had an article. We actually got featured into it. They were talking about it for mental health side of things. So for people with depression, or not even, you could be as far down with depression, or just a normal human that goes through our ups and downs of life. It is it's a dump of your endorphins. You naturally come out more alive. I call it the best afternoon nap that you can take if you're feeling that. You talked about the inflammation side of things. I mean, that goes into inflammation is kind of a precursor for most of the disease that we experience in life. Getting into the plunge, it's going to help lower the inflammation markers, immune system boosters. I mean, I just recently had my levels tested, like my hormonal levels, biomarkers tested on my body, and my immune system's about 7 years younger than my age. And I tested a year ago, and I've basically been plunging every day straight for about a year. So that number went down. And as a guy, my testosterone doubled over this last year. So those were just results I tested a year ago and I tested this year. And
just that stat right there, Ryan, like that's huge. You could just put that on the website and boom, away you go. And you're a pretty healthy guy. Like, you've been doing the plunge thing for quite a while, and your story is amazing, which we're going to get to, as well as Michael and how you guys came together and everything. But this plunging thing you've been doing for a while, you look at yourself, you're in good shape and everything. So that's the beauty of it. And now you're trying to take this thing and, like I said, not only get it to the people that we would, I guess, in our mind would expect to be using this, and AKA that would be athletes and probably celebrities. And you got it to a price point where it's affordable again for that average person, and they can make it a daily part of their life.
100%. I mean, that was that's why we got into it. Yeah. Mike and I, the story comes out of us, part of this was we had to shut our businesses down in California, our other companies, and it allowed some time. And Mike went off and invented this product. And, we decided let's go into business together. But before we got the final product where we wanted it to be, we were like, if we can't do this for around that 5,000 price point, that's not that interesting to us. We don't want to do another product wherever, at whatever everyone else was at. Like, how do we make this really change the game into a price point? So we were able to do that. We've secured some financing options for people. I mean, we have plunge options now where it's like about $140 a month, and you can have a plunge. And our big thing was, how do we make this a practice? It's a great thing to do one-off. If you want to get in and do it one time at, if you're in Sacramento, Asha Urban Baths is a great place. You can go get in a plunge. But this is really for like an every single day practice. It's, like I said, it's if you're wanting to make this consistent, then this is the type of product to be. If it's a one-off, just go do the one-off. But we really were adamant on how do we make this that people could do this every single day at their house.
So let's talk about purchasing the product, like going in. By the way, the website is great. And you mentioned Juan had to be a part of that. So that kind of made sense to me and everything. Everything flows well. The biggest takeaway for me was education and simplicity. Like, I didn't really have any questions. I'm like, okay, I understand how I can purchase. Oh, okay, I see the benefits. Then you give those examples. So everything plays very well on your website. I want to give you that feedback because I'm big on that in terms of, being a small business owner myself. You want to do a good job of being able to explain things to a person that's possibly going to be your client. So with that being said, when we come to the website, maybe talk about the different things. Obviously, we're buying the bath, but you have different kind of options. The big one being, what if you're a tall person, right? Do you have a one size fits all? And it looks like you've adjusted for that as well.
Yeah, we have multiple products. We launched the XL. My co-founder 6'6", so that was always a thing that we were going to be in the works for. The standard works. It's just not quite as comfortable for a taller person, especially when you're getting into that 6'3", 6'4", and taller. We had a lot of pro athletes that were wanting the unit, requesting something a little bigger. So we did get a bigger unit. I mean, we're always trying to find ways to make the site even more value driven for people, because it's a process. Why would I spend $5,000 on kind of a newer concept modality? And so there's a huge education piece. So we're always trying to get feedback of how to educate better. What are the topics that people that are misunderstood or people are looking to get more information? So, that's a work in progress for us. But we really want the product to be and the website to be like smooth. Like, you can go on there, you can purchase it, you can do a few clicks, learn a bit of information, feel confident. That's our big thing too, is that you leave feeling like, okay, cool, this company knows what they're doing. They're going to get me my product. It's going to work. It's going to, you're investing. Yeah. Is this going to work? So those are our big things. And then simplicity, that goes into the website, being able to like click and purchase, and the actual setup of the unit. That was really big to us. Is kind of the inside joke here at the company is like, if I can do it, then anyone can do it. Like I'll hire someone to screw in a light bulb. And so, we really do. I test a lot of the product to be like, okay, cool. Like, that's why I do a lot of the videos too. It's like my language is very simple sometimes. Yeah. So it's like, if I can explain it, then probably everyone else will start to understand it. And so the unit setup has been a huge, it was big. We wanted people to be able to get it within 30 minutes, have the unit set up, turned on, and filtering and cool.
Okay, that's a beautiful thing, because without seeing the video, which would be the case if I were going to purchase, maybe just describe that, right? You make this big purchase. What's going to come to my house when you make that purchase of the cold plunge bath?
Yeah, so you would get notified by one of our carriers. They'd set up an appointment time with you. It would show up on a pallet. All of our lower 48 states get it taken out of the box, taken into your house. They'll place it wherever you want it. It's really 2 units. It's like two pieces. It's the tub with all the filtration mounted on it, and then the chilling unit. Like I said, the delivery team will set it where you want, and then from there, and they'll take away all the trash. And then from there, you basically fill it up with a hose. There's 2 little connection valves that you screw on. You plug it in and set your temperature. And then, depending on how cool the water is coming out of the hose, you got probably about 4 to 6 hours for the unit to cool down to the initial temperature. And then it'll just maintain at that zone that you want it to be in.
That's beautiful. And is there like a cover that goes over it? Because depending on whether you go inside or outside with it, I imagine that would be a piece as well.
Yep. So you get it's a spa cover that comes on that's fitted for it. So it's all weather cover. So it can go inside, outside. We have a side component cover too that covers up all the filtration system that's mounted on the side.
All right. We're talking Plunge right here with Ryan Duey, again, featured on the Shark Tank. They got a deal. And this just literally happened just over a month ago. It was May 2nd, and they got a deal from Robert Herjavec. And I love Robert. And the best part when we go into segment 2 is him going into the bath. I am going to tell you that was my ultimate favorite moment. First of all, for him to be vulnerable enough to come out in just swim trunks, which I thought was pretty admirable. And then once he got in, I could not stop laughing. And that was the case for all the Sharks. That had to be a pretty good moment, wasn't it, Ryan?
It was cool, man. It was, we had set it up prior that was a piece that was, there's a lot of planning to get the plunge down there and get it set up and ready. And Robert had agreed to that prior. That was the only thing that was really, I guess, more or less staged, was that he was going to get into the plunge. But, he actually had to get into the plunge. Like there was that water was cold and it was an authentic experience. And I give him a lot of credit, like you said, to the vulnerability of getting out there, getting into it, but actually there was a bit of showmanship prior of him yelling and screaming, but he really settled in. And that was really important for us. And he was honest and he felt after, and there were some shots that got onto camera and there were just a lot off camera that he was like, guys, I feel really good. Yeah. And so it was, he was an awesome sport with the whole thing. And it was a fun experience, especially when he was yelling at us to shut up and, we're just trying to coach him through the breathwork process. And, but yeah, that was a really fun moment.
Oh, quite a moment. Yeah. Ryan Duey, along with Michael Garrett, again, co-founders of Plunge. It's cold plunge bath. We've talked about the benefits of it, what it would look like. I would invite everyone to go to the website. It's is it thecoldplunge.com, correct?
Thecoldplunge.com.
Yeah.
You type in cold plunge too. We'll pop up. Should be right there.
Yep.
For the white tub looking ice bath.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And literally going on the website, the use of it, the simplicity of it, you'll have no problems navigating around. They're also on Instagram at the cold plunge. You can find them there as well. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're talking the Shark Tank experience. We got a little dose of it from Ryan, but being a big fan of the show, I'm very curious with people that go into the Shark Tank. The process, what is that process? I'm big, I love The Prophet with Marcus Lemonis, who talks about the process, right? So this is going to be very big, and I have Ryan here to tell me about it. So we'll take a break and come back with more. Ryan Duey, the Plunge from Sacramento, got a deal on Shark Tank. We'll be back right after this. All right. Hope you enjoyed that first segment there with Ryan Duey. Of course, we have more coming back. It's going to be a great segment because we're going to be talking about the Shark Tank experience. Again, if you want to check out the website, do it right now, theplunge.com. Multitask. Listen to this spot highlighting our small business owners like Ryan Duey and his partner, Michael. And we want to thank Matt, the mortgage guy. He is featured actually on this program on episode 28. Their website is mg.com. You can call them at 916-802-9291. In a real estate market, as we know right now, you need a lending team that has a great reputation and can help get your offer accepted. You also need a lender that has great processes in place to be able to close in a timely fashion. Well, guess what? Matt, the mortgage guy, and his team are who you want in your corner. You can shoot them a message. I got an email for you. It's team@mtmg.com. Now, I have a personal story. We actually went to Matt. Matt's a friend of mine. I said, listen, we're looking to refinance. This was close to about, 9 or 10 months ago. And they got us to a refinance in a month, okay, from start to finish. And check this out. Just recently, they were able to get us in contact with someone who helped us lower our home insurance and our flood insurance. We were paying an ungodly amount, and we got it way down here. So that was all a tribute to Matt, the mortgage guy. Another piece about Matt that I think is very important is that he is featured on YouTube. He's got his own YouTube channel. Check him out. Just look up Matt, the mortgage guy, and he's a YouTube star. He's got over 500 videos, over 1 million views, and basically he is there for education, including a live stream or live chat that he does every Monday at 6 o'clock. Also want to thank Little Whale Swim School, Anya Hall. She is the owner of the premier swim school in Sacramento. Her story, an amazing one, is featured in the early days of Experience the Buzz, episode number 6. Their website is littlewhaleswim.com, and they're located at 4106 El Camino Avenue in Sacramento. this is what they like to say at Little Well. It's always summer at Little Well. And right now it's almost summer. Okay. But here's the deal. They are the premier swim school for two reasons. They got great indoor facilities. That means the water's going to be nice and warm for you. And they are year round. So yes, the summer is coming up, but they've been doing this January through December. And aside from that, we want to let you know as well that they also have jobs available. So if you're thinking of a summer job, you can contact Little Well Swim School and inquire about that. And here's the biggest thing, making your child's summer safer, right? Drowning is a big cause. I believe it's the number one cause of deaths amongst infants and stuff. So get them trained, get them to Little Well Swim School, the premier swim school. And that is good stuff. All right, Matt, the mortgage guy, Little Well Swim School, proud sponsors here on Experience the Buzz. Now, let's get back to our conversation with Ryan Duey.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss an episode of Experience the Buzz by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. It means everything. Now, back to the show.
And welcome back. Here we are on Experience the Buzz, a conversation I've been looking so much forward to because, yes, and I have no problem saying I don't have I should get a shirt, but I'm a big Shark Tank fan. So on May 2nd, when I was watching it live, Ryan Duey, who was joining with us, along with his partner, Michael Garrett, they were on the Shark Tank and they were featuring the Plunge. And not only were they able to showcase it, guess what? They got a deal with Robert Herjavec, and now we're going to just take you through the process. So my first thing is, the story behind it, and we haven't even dove into that yet, but you're at this point where you've got a new product. It's amidst the pandemic. Where do you make this decision to go on the Shark Tank? Let's start there.
Yeah, I remember it. We were actually out. We were doing our first event. And it was we went to the CrossFit Games last summer, 2021, out in Madison, Wisconsin. They actually reached out to us. It was from a casting producer on the show that was like, hey, we came across your product. Would you guys be interested in applying and interviewing for the show? We were like, yeah, hadn't even crossed our minds. Like, of course.
Okay, so being on Shark Tank was never a thought in your mind. You were just doing your thing.
Nope, we were just doing our thing. Mm-hmm. They had reached out, which I think is more rare. I think most people that get on, like, they apply, and we were growing pretty quick. Our thing was just, how do we keep this company going? We were dealing with enough. Like, we weren't even thinking on Shark Tank, but we were like, yeah, let's do it. So we had a great call with them, and then it goes through. There's you do the interview. They do a lot of back and forth, getting a lot of our financials. They vet to make sure these are real companies to, some degree. Everyone's obviously at different phases. We were probably a little more established than a lot of companies that come on. But yeah, went through the process, and then pretty quickly they were like, yeah, you're in. And they always kind of hold it. You're never like, nothing's ever official, because they always hold it that, like, we have every right to, like, pull you off and not let you go down to the show, or once we did the show, like, if they air. So there's always this, like, kind of carrot. They just want to, I get it. They want to make sure that we're not fraudulent, that we're not, like, going to get bad press. Like, I don't go to jail or something like that. We don't want to promote this company. So anyways, we did the interview process, got on, went down there, and yeah, man, the show was really fascinating experience. They truly care about entrepreneurship. That was, like, really clear. That was, like, in the ethos. They're all about, giving a platform to innovators and showcasing. Like, I'm sure the show has evolved. Like you said, it's in season 13, but they were really for, like, making this a win for the entrepreneurs. Not so much of, like, how do we make people look silly or, like, entertainment. It was like, no, we had each company that goes out is teamed with casting producers that work with us. They are part of our pitch. So the pitch is really the only scripted thing on the whole show. You walk out, you do the walkout, the infamous walkout with the music, you hit your mark.
Okay, wait, do you hear the music when you walk out? Do you remember?
I don't think so.
No, okay, no. That's just for TV.
No, there was no music. Mm-hmm. It's very much like you're in. It was a moment. It was a like, you felt it.
Yeah.
Like, you're in the room. It's the room where they do a lot of, like, post interviews, with contestants coming off, and it's that one room. We're on Sony Pictures, massive, studio lot there. We're in a huge warehouse, probably, I don't know, dozens and dozens, I don't know, maybe 100 people on the set. Right. And then it just gets quiet, and you got the one stage manager in front of you that's just kind of there, and the whole place just gets, it's a town, and now it's just quiet. And then it's like, all it is once these doors open, you got a camera in your face and you walk out, and then you walk out and you hit your spot, and then it's a 30-second stare down. And it's dead silent, and it's just us with the sharks, and it's just like us making eye contact, and to really use that time to try and connect with them.
Dude, I'm sorry. I'm getting giddy on this. This is great. This is the intel that I've always wanted, and I love it. Oh, my gosh. Okay, I'm having a moment here, Ryan. I'm having a moment.
I'm with you, man. I didn't follow the show that much, but it was I'd watched enough to be really intrigued to see what actually went down, and like, what is this show? What is a show and what is like cut for television? And so, and then you're out there, and then I believe it was the director after like 30 seconds says like, go. And it's like dead quiet. And then it's like, that's when the pitch happens. And it's like, I'm Ryan from Sacramento, California. And it's like, you do that, and that's a staged, bit, obviously a lot of practice that went into that, working with their producing team, and they kind of coach us on that and all the stuff. So anyways, we did that. And then ours was, Robert knew he was going to get into a cold plunge, but I actually don't even know if he knew he was getting in a cold plunge. I think he might've known he was just be getting in a bathing suit, because they'd have no pre-understanding of our company.
Okay. That's a great question. So when they go onto the set, they don't know what's coming at them, correct? That has to be a part of it, right?
And that's where it's a really interesting show. It's like, so Robert plunges. At that point, we really need to get them to understand who we are as a company,
right?
Who Mike and I are as entrepreneurs. There's a lot. It's a very, there's no situation where you're pitching your company and you have to make a decision. We're actually out there about 35, 40 minutes with someone having no context to our company and trying to tell a story, a narrative to what we've done, our sales, where we're going as a company, building trust, what we're going to use the money for, all the stuff. So that was a really unique experience to be in real time negotiating our company with, 5 badass people that have all built incredible companies themselves, and to do that. But, back to the spot with Robert hopping in, that was a unique moment too, because on the show, it looks great. It looks quick. Like he walks off, he comes back out in a bathing suit, but there was like a 5 to 8 minute window where we're just kind of out there with the sharks, just kind of like Robert's behind the set changing. And so they're starting to ask us questions, and we're trying to like hold them off because it's not really the show yet.
Okay. So you're not on camera, but they're still asking questions rather than it being, hey guys, take a break here. We're going to wait for Robert to get back. So it's like a constant thing.
Yeah. It was like we were on camera. So, anything that could have happened, they could have put onto the show,
right?
But it's not really a moment. Like Robert's not there. So we're trying to like hold off, and they just start, their thing is like rapid fire questions. They're just like, they'll talk over each other. They'll yell. They tell me this, tell me that. And you kind of have to, the biggest thing is like controlling the room of like, okay, cool. Let me get to that. And like, they'll cut you off in the middle of the sentence and someone wants an answer. So that was our first, it was a fun, I won't say awkward, but it was a moment where it was like, okay, cool. They like, let's hold off on the questions, just try and do small talk with them.
Right.
And the show's really, what's interesting with the show is they don't interject. Like it's us and the 5 sharks, and it's us and the 5 sharks until it's over.
Wow.
And there's no director that comes in and says anything or stops the show at some moment. It's like, it's us and them standing in a room. It just so happens with a lot of cameras and a lot of people watching. And so that was, how they cut the show is really interesting to see. Our show is very much to like the kind of the numbers and straight into the negotiation, and which was great. It was cool. But there was a lot to the show that didn't come in, like our story through COVID and, building these out of the garage and like
which, by the way, that surprises me because having read your guys' story, which we're going to share in the final segment, and it's on your website, I was blown away because they do usually feature people's stories on Shark Tank. So the fact that they did not share yours, I was like, wow, it actually surprised me.
Yeah, you never know how they get it in the room, and they're kind of cutting it together, and they're like, let's go with this narrative. But yeah, that didn't come out. Was what it was. What was interesting with us is we thought the whole time to the morning. I mean, we're talking about an hour before we went out. We thought Kevin Hart was going to be our shark.
Really?
Because they had reached out to us. Kevin Hart was the guest shark that season. He's really into health and wellness. He has his like show on YouTube called Cold as Balls, where he's like in ice tubs. And so we were like, we were just certain. We were like, it's Kevin Hart. We even planned our pitch around that. We even planned there was stuff that we had prepped for him into the negotiation. We just thought it was like no brainer. Kevin Hart. We're walking out with Kevin Hart as our partner.
See, and that's interesting because a lot of people like yourself, the small business owners that go in there, I had to imagine in their mind, they're like, we hope it's this person. So within the conversation, you hope it leads to that person. Here's the beautiful thing, Ryan, is like you got offers from multiple sharks, and that's very rare to do as well.
Yeah, I think we got 4.
Yeah. Lori was the only one who opted out.
Lori was the only one that was out. I'm hesitant to call a couple of them Mr. Wonderfuls. I still don't even know what he offered us.
No one understands. It's all it's all about royalties. At least you didn't have royalties within what you guys are doing. But talk about that, because the valuation that you guys came out with was $1.2 million for a 5% stake. And it's interesting because, the Sharks, like they add up the numbers and everything. But yet, Kevin, $1.2 million for 18%. Barbara, $1.2 million for 20%. Mark was $1.2 million for 15%. Robert ends up being the winner, $1.2 million for 12%. But the fact that you had 4 sharks that were active on this, that's pretty impressive. That's hard to do.
Yeah, and Robert and Mark both came in with credit lines too.
That's right,
which was important. So Robert had the $1.2 million on a credit line, and Mark's was similar. Little different terms on the credit line, but he stuck at 15%. We were able to get Robert down to 12. And Rob, at that point we didn't quite know who our sharks were, but Mark and Robert were who we were targeting. We thought it was going to be Kevin, and that was like there. But then we were like, okay, Robert and Mark. Obviously, Mark with his background in sports, and a little more accustomed to the product, and then Robert knowing that he was going to get into the unit. That we really were like, okay, there's going to be something special here that he's going to be able to relate to the product much different than anyone else on set. So those were factors that we were looking at. So it was really cool that it came down to those two. I think the show made us spill the beans a bit, like made us look even a little more generous and smarter than we were, because they cut it was very tight cuts, but there were parts that didn't make air where it was like, I would turn and be like, hey, can we take a second and talk about this? And like, I'd turn to Mike and be like, what was that deal? I don't understand that.
That's the thing is you're having to, the numbers are going through your mind and you're trying to get it as close to, what you guys came in with. And, this one's a little bit more straightforward, but like you said, there's little nuances in there, like with, line of credit, Kevin's always going to throw the royalties in there. So for me, I don't love math. I'd be looking at that going, yeah, I do. In fact, I need 5 minutes, but then you got to love the Sharks because sometimes they're like, we're not going to give you the time. You got to make that decision now. But luckily, I think they gave you some grace in terms of being able to come to that decision and finally land on one of the Sharks.
They were, they gave us time. They're like, take the time you need. They were really supportive of us as like entrepreneurs. That felt like it felt affirming. It was like they were really congratulatory of our business. Yeah. Obviously they fought for us. It was a pretty big valuation to come in for Shark Tank. And so that's where there was kind of some, the good old negotiation, but they were really supportive of what we had done as a business. And, were really, there was, the stress of being out there, but it was great people to work with.
And here's the other piece of information people need to know. Now, listen, you're really going to understand this if you're a cold shark fan, because there's different entities within the show that are so important. Their big question after they hear the evaluation, they gasp, right? is, you throw your pitch and stuff, but then they're like, tell us what you made. Like, give us the numbers and everything. And what was great is you guys were able to share with them. I mean, again, this was created in March of 2020. Okay, we're not talking a long time, but you guys shared that number, 4.9 million in 1 year's time, which was outstanding. Of course, that got everybody where they needed to be then to start offering you, like I said, 4 out of 5 sharks.
Yep. Yeah. They got on board. I mean, it was interesting with the valuation is that is part of the show that you have to, so you can change the valuation till any moment you walk out.
Oh, wow.
So that is, you're allowed to, like, it's your company. You can, so we had our valuation and Mike and I actually changed it that morning and we upped the valuation and we told our producer, literally we're getting our makeup done, about 5 final makeup round after, I don't know how many makeup rounds, but we're about to go out and we're like, we're raising the valuation. And he was like, are you guys serious? And we're like, yeah. And he was like, okay, Ryan, like, that's cool. You guys have good sales numbers. Okay. But they're going to be shocked.
Yeah.
Like Mike, because I think Mike said the valuation and he was like, Ryan, don't talk for like 5 seconds after that because they're all going to razz you guys. So like, they're going to like come out with all the gasp and all the things. So there was this moment that Mike says the valuation. I just like stand there and let them like all say their stuff. And then the other interesting thing with the show is, which I didn't know about, maybe this was more common knowledge, is like the negotiation works that you have to hit the number as opposed to, so like the equity can change, but the money that you ask for, you cannot walk out with anything lower.
Oh, I see.
So,
okay.
So like that, it's kind of, there's a strategy involved. You got to kind of set your base at a, Lars was 1.2 for 5 was our walk-in, but understanding that, okay, they're going to fight for equity. We can't leave without less than 1.2 million. You could piece that together with $600,000 in credit, $600,000 in an equity agreement. So you can piece that to 1.2, but that is kind of the game of, having that number. So sometimes you want that number to maybe be a little lower, so it doesn't sound as intense to the Sharks. So that was something that we kind of looked at after and we're like, oh, maybe, there could have been space. Maybe if we came with a little lower number, but a little higher equity to start, or vice versa.
Yeah.
I mean, that we could have maybe walked out with a little better situation. All in all, we were really happy with what.
Yeah, it's a great job. I mean, congratulations, right? Ryan Duey joining us, co-founder of Plunge. They can be found at thecoldplunge.com. Again, great website, very simple. And I'm telling you, like they said, they just want to make it as common as coffee, trying to reach out to people like you and I that, can come out here and have that bath and just be ready to go in it on a daily. And you heard the stats that Ryan even shared for someone who actually is owner of the business and what has been able to do for him. So my last thing on the Shark Tank experience, I could probably talk on and on about this, but one thing, like when Roberts, says it's a deal and you shake his hand, what happens from there? Take me through that moment of that happening and then walking back down that hallway, realizing you got a deal. And then what happens in the post after you're done?
Yeah. So the actual immediate, what happens, within the minutes after, we hugged Robert, we walked off, and then we go off set, we go into and then it's just like a lot of interviews. Which was, I don't think I'd ever been so exhausted from not really doing, from not moving, like the adrenaline that had dumped into my body. And then was almost like, there were times I've never been so hyper-focused during the show. And I think I blacked out during some of the show. Anyways, you come off, I was exhausted here. So we were doing interviews, with them. They were, a lot of roundup interviews. So that took place. Then we go back in the trailer. They got a psychologist on site. So we were working with them because ours went well, some don't go well. So they're working with so it's, someone there to kind of like a therapist to kind of support people.
And that would be for people who get deals and don't get deals, correct? Both sides.
He was very clear of I kind of have 2 talks. You guys are getting the good talk. So let's talk about that. And then because we don't know what, we felt it was good, but we'd never seen a pitch live. We'd never done a pitch live. So it's people were telling us we did a really good job. We got offers, but to be honest, we didn't, you guys just blowing smoke up our ass. Is this no. And, he was like, no, I've had other talks. So anyways, that was a nice touch that they have
That's
there.
good.
And then it goes. And then from there, the actual follow up is the show itself's like a true, like solid handshake agreement. You have an agreement with Robert. And then we enter into diligence, which we're into right
Oh,
now
okay.
with him
Great.
and kind of going through the process. And yeah. And so it's been,
Can you
really
explain
good.
though for the audience, the 1.2 million, like what you wanted to use that for to help further your guys' business?
Yeah. I mean, I think at the time, something I've learned really along the way too of, at the time we were pitching on like our purchase orders, basically our inventory, purchasing our inventory. Um, Mike and I had never raised cash for the company. So there's a cash flow issue. It's like, how do we buy product for 3 months ahead of time, which we haven't received that money for? That's the issue for any product based company, most e-commerce companies. So that's what we were pitching Robert on, was like, hey, this would help us secure purchase orders for 400 plus units. That would really get out. We had a little backlog of units, and help us secure like what we needed to be buying 3 to 6 months down the road. The credit line, that is the beautiful part, because that now can be used for purchase orders, and we can use the equity money. It's probably a better suited to be used for, staff. We just moved into a new facility here. We're actually in Lincoln, California now, right outside of Sacramento. So we're doing upgrades to the building. So that cash will be really helpful for that. So, equity money, it's kind of rule of thumb, which we've learned later on is more for, investments in people or investments into long-term growth or facilities, while credit lines are much more effective for actual product. So that's the plan. That's the plan with the
Wow,
money.
fascinating segment. Ryan, Duey, Michael Garrett, the founders of Plunge, again, thecoldplunge.com. We're going to take our final break, and when we come back, we're going to finish up with this guy's story. It's amazing, and I'm going to have him share Michael's story too, because it is so cool how these two guys came together and put this out here. I mean, it truly is amazing, and you're going to want to stay tuned for that. So we'll take our final break and come back with more Ryan Duey right here on Experience the Buzz. Oh man, I am still reeling from that great segment talking Shark Tank. I got a little nerdy there, but you know what? I have no shame in the nerdiness that I have for ST, which is Shark Tank. All right. And a big thank you to Ryan. And when we come out of this segment, we're actually going to go into a story, a pretty amazing story, and some great final thoughts regarding the tubs and plunging, which has been our focus today. Want to thank two more of our sponsors, folks. We have 4 in total. We highlighted 2 in the early going. Here's the other 2. Pit Boss Jerky. Just spoke with Joe Green, who was featured in episode number 26. And he wanted me to let you know that he still has 13 flavors of incredible beef jerky. No, number 14 has not emerged yet. I'm sure it's still in the science lab. But think about it. It's great beef jerky that's made right here in the capital city by Joe Green. That's right. He's got like 8 smokers in his backyard. He doesn't have a brick and mortar. He is doing this out of his backyard. He is the mad scientist. How do you order some? Well, you get on this number, and this is a direct number to Joe himself. So you can actually talk to the pit boss. It is 916-769-6807. And I wanted to give you something new for PBJ. And that was, I asked Joe, I said, hey, can you give me the top 5? What are the top 5 sellers? And here they are. Are you ready? Top 3 flavors are pepper garlic, raspberry apple chipotle, honey gold, and then island teriyaki coming in at number 4, and Experience the Buzz. That's right, coming in at number 5. So those are 5 of the 14 flavors. The newest flavor is White Bull's Barbecue. And I also have good news. Joe Green shared with me they're going to be featured at Amy Hardware in the coming weeks. That'll be a location here in Sacramento, and the newest location for Amy Hardware up in El Dorado Hills. We will keep you posted. And finally, let's thank R5 Stitch and Print. Troy Rousey, featured in episode number 25. They've got all your screen printing and embroidery needs, featuring high precision stitching and large format printing. Every time I talk to Troy, he's got a new piece of machinery doing crazy stuff that you cannot even imagine. Go to their website, r5print.com. More importantly, give them a call at 916-454-3773. I believe Grace is her name. She is the designer there, the graphic designer. She will help you put together a portfolio that you can visually see, figure out what products you want. If you need help with the logo, they've got it all for you. So again, big thank you to Pit Boss Jerky and R5 Stitch and Print. We will now get back to our final segment with Ryan Duey of Plunge. It's coming your way right now.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss an episode of Experience the Buzz by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. It means everything. Now, back to the show.
Cold plunging. Are you interested? Check it out. You could purchase one by going to the coldplunge.com and check it out. This is the other thing. We've got Ryan Duey, who is the founder, along with Michael Garrett, and I wanted to finish up with their story. It was important to talk about their product. We talked about the Shark Tank experience, but how these guys got to where they are is pretty amazing. And again, all you have to do is go to the website, go to the About section. And Ryan, that was well done too, because I'm reading this, I'm going, wow, I was like mind blown. And for you especially, like a big accident happened within your life. And that turned out to be like one of those big moments for you.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of where to begin in those stories. They intersect from the individual to Mike's side, to my side. I mean, for me, it was, I was not an entrepreneur. I was in a pretty serious accident out in Thailand, had this epiphany, have this moment where life's precious, and set out onto kind of an inward journey, inward healing practice of mind, body, spirit, of just like, okay, what do I want to do with my life? Which led me into float tanks, which led me to moving to Sacramento to launch Capital Floats, which is now in Sacramento. And in that process, I met Mike, who is the owner of and founder of Reboot Float and Cryo down in San Francisco and Oakland. Float tanks, sensory deprivation tanks, they're not the most commonly available things. So Mike and I got to know each other. We were float tank owners. So that was always comical. We became buds through that, very similar in age, life experiences, hit it off really quick, became really good buddies. But it was always funny. We'd go around and we're like, yeah, we're both float tank center owners. And we had this like common thing. And now we're Plunge and float tank center owners. But so anyways, it was, that we became really close through that, which led us to this. We always thought maybe we would do some sort of business together. But then the pandemic hits 2020. Mike had just, serendipitously like moved to Sacramento, which was it wasn't even because of COVID. He basically landed in April. It had already been planned. He'd moved up from the Bay Area. Businesses shut down. From that moment on, he was like, it's the first time I've ever had some time. And so I'm going to create a cold plunge. He had the chest freezer. He's like, it's kind of crazy. There's no unit out there at a price point that we were looking at. So he developed it. He kind of started pitching me on to become business partners with him. And to be honest, I was kind of hesitant at first. I was going through a lot of stuff with Capital Float shutting down, my own personal life. I was like, is this the time to really go launch another business? But I saw the development of the product. I knew who he was. And we were like, yeah, let's do it. And we really just emailed our float centers. Like I emailed Capital Floats and he emailed Reboot Float and Cryo. And we just basically were like, hey, we're going to build, this is what we've been working on over the pandemic. We're going to sell 20 of these. Who wants to buy them? And, through that, we knew we could learn the product, learn exactly how to build it, learn the vulnerabilities of it, learn how to improve it. And they were all fairly local, so we could drive them to the facility. It was a whole new undertaking to learn how to ship these units. But we were like, Mike had a van. We're like, we'll load it up in the van and we'll either deliver in Sacramento or San Francisco. And, then kind of the rest is history from there. We launched in September of 2020. And, I think we're on to our 6th or 7th facility now in about 20 months. And that's just like his garage, like that picture behind me. You can kind of see that's us building out of the garage right there.
I love it.
Then we're in the back of Sacramento. We were back of Jesse Scatton's Greenhaven bike shop down there.
Jesse Scatton? Oh my gosh.
Jesse
keeps getting better.
Jesse was one of our first customers. And, I remember on the drop off, Jesse was like, hey, I got some space in the back of the shop if you guys want it. And we're like, yeah, we need to get out of the garage. We need a little something bigger. So then we were building plunges in the back of the bike shop behind this dummy wall that people would be buying bikes and looking back to us being like, what is going on back here?
Wow.
We were just like building units and filling them up with water back there. And then, then we finally got our first warehouse, and then now we're, I think our third or fourth warehouse since then. So yeah, it's definitely been a local journey throughout Sacramento, all over Sacramento. A lot of different people have been supportive and helpful along the way.
Yeah. And we should mention Ryan went to Cal Poly, and then your partner, Michael, like what I noticed what that was saying about you guys is that you kind of went on an adventure. Like you just spoke about your one, but Michael had a similar experience, correct?
Totally. I mean, we both, we like to say we both.
You're living the same life.
100%. And that's what caught me to him. Like, I saw him building Reboot Float. He was about a year ahead of me of the process of building Reboot Float and Cryo. I lived in San Francisco at the time. I had read his story online somewhere of this guy that had gone to the jungles of Peru, the Amazon forest, and had this inward spiritual journey. And now he was out to, he found float tanks, and this is such helpful for mankind. I want to build a facility. And it was literally like, dude, that's my story. I went to the Amazon. I had this connection to that of like, I need to build a facility that people have access to this. So I just hit him up. And I remember the first day I walked in, he was like, he had been open 2 weeks. I drove to San Francisco because I moved to Sacramento at this point, and walked in and was like, hey, like, we got similar stories, man. And then we just became buds, and we've had a hell of a ride since then.
Well, it's amazing because like they're so parallel, but yet you really haven't been together that long. Like, right? We're talking since the pandemic, but it seems like you guys have known each other forever. And I'm very curious about the makeup of just doing a tub. So you're saying you're in the back of Jesse Scatton's bike shop down in East Sac, like making these things. How long does it take to, from start to finish to make one bath?
Well, making a tub in the back of the bike shop compared to where we're at now is
a little different.
Very different. We've made a lot of iterations to the unit. So the units are different with different types of, more or less the same, but much more upgraded. And the process of how we build. We're now to an assembly line. We have, we crank a unit out every 15 minutes now. Where before we were doing, it was, can we get one built today? Can we get two built today? It's just totally different process, and I'd say 15, it's like that's with a much bigger workforce, a labor team, processes, conveyor belts. It's just different now. And we've learned how to do it, or, we keep improving, and we probably still have a long ways to go to even improve. So
cool journey. Cool journey. So I have to ask you, there is a little celebrity part to this. Like, I started seeing things on social media where like, I saw Conor McGregor, I believe, right? And I saw Tony Hawk and, I forget his name. I know I wrote it down. Oh, JP Sears, which I thought was hilarious. Yeah, he actually has one. But when you see that guy, he's like totally physically fit. And then you've got like all these athletes now. And so it's like you've immersed yourself in this world that I know you wanted to get it to, the everyday Joe and stuff, but it is kind of cool to have a little star power.
100%. It's a mix of, we have all those people. A part of that is like, we wanted to get the tub. This is a new concept. And so you need people that are elite in we've realized we need people elite in what they do to put social proof behind this and actually say like, this unit affects me. This impacts me. We have, like, for example, we're really big in the CrossFit space. We're partners with Rich Froning and some of the other top athletes there. And so that's been, and a lot of people that are into CrossFit, they're going to look to that. Oh, Rich is using this for recovery. So, and it's been cool. Just to go meet Tony Hawk, that was selfishly just a pretty badass. Of
course. Yeah. No shame in that at all. So there was one thing that I really, truly loved on the website where you talked about creating relationships where everyone wins. It's funny because that's a big thing for me, creating win-win relationships, partnerships. Can you explain from your standpoint what that means as a business?
Yeah, the term that we go by is all boats rise. And it's, like I said, it's win-win. It's outside of this competitive paradigm of like, you got to one up someone. And that goes into, deals that we enter into, negotiations. It goes to our employees. It goes to, it's just everything we do.
Yeah.
Like, is this feel like, we don't want someone feeling bad. You know, we don't want to be the side that gets the one up on someone else from some deal or some structuring. We want this to feel, everyone to feel good. Like that's important. It's like, you know, it's important for us in the bigger picture. It's like, yeah, we want our company to do well, but we also want to be a net positive into what's happening in the world. And so it's kind of our North Star in everything we enter into.
Well, Ryan, I have to confession. I sunk a lot of money into a spa before I saw the plunge bath. And I'm kicking myself, but I know that I'm going to make it happen. And I have to say, Juan was definitely a part of that process, because when he was starting to showcase it, and then coupled with being able to see you guys on Shark Tank and now having this conversation, it's like, I want to be a customer. And so I eventually will make that happen, because I do see, like, everything that you said, like, you don't have to sell me on it. It's sold for sure. And I think a lot of people, once they kind of dive into your website, and again, it's not anything you're going to have to do like 7 or 8 hours of looking at. It really is simple. And I think people will make that kind of that quick decision of like, yeah, wow, this could be a big benefit to me. And I'm just curious of like the feedback that you're getting from people, not, you know, the celebrities and the elites. We kind of know that. But again, I point to average Joes like myself. What is that feedback? And maybe what are the challenges that you guys are trying to work with?
Yeah. The feedback is, it changed people's lives. Like, we have this motto, take the plunge, change your life. And man, I don't say that lightly. Like, we are like adamant and into what, if you do this consistently, it will change your life. And it ranges from, we just did a spotlight segment with his name is Jason Khalipa, original CrossFit champion. So this guy's a world-class athlete. He got the plunge, you know, he's thinking recovery. That's what he wants to use it for. Well, what it's turned into is the greatest bonding experience he's had with his daughter. And it's built confidence. This is the thing that his daughter is gaining confidence, and it's her mood elevation. It's like she knows, she's adamant, I do this for 4 minutes every single morning because I'm a better person. And that's an 11-year-old girl.
Wow.
And it's about them. And so it's like, that's one story that we didn't get into this to be like, how do we build father and daughters to get closer together? That's just like one piece to this. We have, we've had an individual that had COVID long haul, you know, completely dealing with those symptoms. It was a laundry list of what that was. He got the unit. Within a week, it was the first time his Whoop score was in the green. This person was they were doing studies on this person of why can't they regulate their system? And the plunge, within a week, he's like, I've been on every medication you can think of. And this put me finally back into homeostasis that I've never felt before. So, you know, that's another end of the spectrum experience that it's happening. We get, you know, big thing is we just get to boil it down, man. It's like, I'm a better person.
Yeah.
And I think that there, you can get into the science of what that means, but like, I'm a better husband. I'm a better mother. People's moods are elevated. People are more calm. And you know, it's something which I think is incredible is it's 3 to 5 minutes and you're going to get that feeling every single time.
Yeah.
And there's really nothing in the world that I've found, you know, that is that. Like, yeah, you can go work out and you can get that state change, but that's 30 to 60 minutes you got to put in. You got to get sweaty. You got to get shower after. It's like you can cold plunge, take clothes off real quick, get in, towel off, and you're back out in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like you're done and you're back on with your day. So that's something I think is really exciting that we're tapping into that hasn't really been touched on. And we're still young. So it's like, we're figuring out what is this doing for people. We're kind of still in that anecdotal spot, but soon we're going to have the studies and we're going to even quantify this even more. But it's, you know, man, it's the coolest thing. I could turn you on to any of our customer service or sales team, and they're like, they got the coolest job. Yeah. They're just like talking with people on how it's changing their life.
I love it.
So it's pretty fun.
Yeah. And right now it's only in white. Maybe you get different colors. I don't know. Yeah, that could be something in the future. Who knows, right?
Yeah. Like I said, we have the larger unit. We are going to be launching a sauna product later this summer. So that'll be a new kind of space that we enter into. We're definitely into the innovation of it. So new types of things coming out.
All right. Last part to finish off this amazing conversation, which I knew it would be. It was over and beyond, is the education piece, the top 3 do's and the top 3 don'ts about plunging. You guys are very good about talking about that. Can you give me 3 in each space?
Yeah. So the top 3 do's, I would say, find consistency. So that's helps to find a time of day that you're going to do it in, like just build consistency like that. That's the key to it. Is if you're doing it it's like going to the gym. You can go to the gym once a week or maybe once a month. I don't know. But if you're doing that, you're going to see the results. So plunging, consistency. Do's, I would say if you're starting out, find a buddy. It's a lot easier to be accountable when you're doing it with someone. Find a person, find your partner, find someone to get up and do it with you. You're going to be, it takes that 7 to 10 days, especially where you can kind of break out of a pattern. It takes me, whatever they say, 21, 24 days to really build a habit. Right. So find someone to do it with you. That's a really good, especially as you're building the habit. What's a good third do? I would say find a temperature which kind of goes into the don't. Find a temperature that is doable. And I mean doable that it still challenges you, but don't, like we get a lot of people that get our units and take it down to 39 degrees. And I'm like, no. Like start at 57. Like that's a lot colder than you anticipate, and your body's going to acclimate. It's again, going to the gym. You're not going to go and do a 3-hour workout and gas your muscles that you can't even show up the next day.
And that's where Robert was at, right? He was like at a 50 something degree. Yeah.
We're at 55 with Robert. And it's a real, like I think when people actually feel what 55 is like, and it's like, wow, that's cold. So that kind of goes into the don'ts. I would say the don'ts are don't go for 10 minutes and 39 degrees to start. Find a time that you could show up for the next day and just play the long game. Like, don't play this to be a hero for tomorrow or today. Play this that I'm doing this for life. And so you start with 55 degrees and do a minute. Ideally, you can get through a minute and just do that until you're like, you know what, I'm going to do 2 minutes. Like, for example, my girlfriend, she's been building that way. And now it's like a total habit. She's doing 2 minutes at 46 degrees, and she's really built that process. And now it's like this is a process for her. This is something that is consistent for her. So I think those are it. And don'ts. Don't worry about what other people are doing with it. Find your own process with it. There's no right or wrong way to do it. And so the only right way is really building consistency.
I love it. Ryan, take us out. Final words. Again, how people can contact you and find you guys, Plunge.
Yeah. I mean, Plunge, type in Cold Plunge on the internet. We should pop up. We're thecoldplunge.com on all major social channels. We're stoked to be a Sacramento company and doing our thing here.
Ryan, thank you so much for this conversation again. Just such an honor, and a purchase will happen. I promise. I'm going to have a Plunge. It'll happen eventually.
I'm going to hold you to that.
Okay, please do. Ryan Duey, everybody, of Plunge, thecoldplunge.com. Thank you so much for your time. Well, there you have it. What a great conversation with Ryan Duey. I hope you enjoyed it. By the way, if you would like to get the episodes on a weekly basis, meaning you don't have to seek them out, they kind of come to you, there's an easy thing to do. Subscribe. That's right. So you can subscribe on the audio side, subscribe on the video side, which will be on our YouTube channel, and you will be alerted when there are new episodes coming out. And we try to keep it consistent. We've been trying to go on a weekly basis, release every Friday, and look for that. And we have more guests that are coming down the pipeline as we make our way to our 100th show. And we've got some surprising things that we're going to be sharing with you. We're looking to go live with that show. And somewhere in the neighborhood of August, September, that is going to happen. So again, my big thanks to Ryan Duey. I really appreciate his time and being able to share his story and this amazing product. And yes, I put it out there, a promise that I will purchase a cold plunge bath. It will happen eventually. Now I got to figure out where I'm going to put it. That's all I got for now. Talk to you next time. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you for joining Steve this week on Experience the Buzz. Steve would love to hear from you. Leave a review or contact Steve directly with any questions at scbuzzard@gmail.com. To see the other adventures of Steve Buzzard, be sure to visit buzzardball.com.